Hello, everyone. Welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. This is our weekly show that we do every Wednesday at 11 Central. So welcome again. Today's topic is going to be web part connections, and I'm Laura Rogers. If you've never been to SharePoint Power Hour before, this is just a weekly show that I do for free, for fun, just talking about anything SharePoint, Office 365, pretty much all different versions of SharePoint, and nothing super devy or programmy or admin-y. So it's a lot of Power Hour topics and things like that. Are you all here? So I don't have any guests with me in the chat window today. So I want to make sure that everybody who's watching, y'all let me know in the Slack channel, say hello, and let me know if you can hear me and everything's good. We have a Slack channel that we use. If you're watching this on YouTube, there is a link to the channel. It's iwmentor.slack.com. And if you've never been to the channel before, there's also a link to fill out the form to join, because I have to send you an invitation. If you fill out the form while I'm doing Power Hour, I'm not going to be able to invite you till after. So yeah, thanks. I'm glad everyone can hear me. This new computer is working out really well. It's not struggling like the other one was. I think I got all the webcam settings all good this time, and it's not fuzzy or grainy, I don't think. So finally, I think it's going to be okay. All right. So hope everybody had a good week. I was off teaching my 4-day-long workflows and forms class last week, so we didn't have Power Hour. That went awesome. That is, I'm going to do a little shameless self-promotion real quick. My SharePoint training company is iwmentor.com, and one of the classes I teach is a week-long, 4-day-long workflows and forms class. It is advanced, and it's very intense, and it's very detailed. It's mostly SharePoint Designer 2013 workflows, and it's how to build an entire business solution, not just build workflows, but do all the planning and building all the content types and lists and building the workflow, troubleshooting the workflow. We have an entire module on troubleshooting workflows and how to get them to do what you want to do, and then building out the whole thing. So anyway, that went really well. We had a great crowd in there, and you know what? I wanted to ask you guys something before I get started on the web part connections. And it has to do with the classes. Hey, everybody. It has to do with the classes on my iwmentor.com site. When I taught this power user class, when I've taught it before, we didn't have a beginner class, and it was a week-long class of power user topics. And even though we would say this is not a beginner class, this is not a beginner class, we would always get beginners signing up for it thinking, well, I want to be a power user, so I should take the power user class. But we would just dive right in. It didn't really have introductory information about what is SharePoint, what's a list or a library. It pretty much just dives into managing your site, managing lists and libraries and settings and everything. It doesn't really have end user stuff anyway. So I still tend to see a lot of people wanting to sign up for a power user class, even though when they're beginners. So with my new company, I created a beginner class, but it's still like people, I don't know, when they think even they were a beginner, they don't want to take a beginner class. So I wanted to see what you guys think. What is your opinion on this? This is my crowdsourcing. Maybe I should change now beginner is just, introduction to all lists and libraries, all the different templates, all the different types, and getting around in your site and views and all kinds of stuff like that. It's just not like getting into settings and managing a site and permissions and stuff like that. And feel free to go look at iwmentor.com and go, browse the agendas, the syllabi for those. But what do you think about calling it, like, for the beginner one, calling it like power user level 1, and then calling the one that's been power user, calling it like power user level 2, and that way maybe so you want to be a power user, and that's it. Yeah. So you want to be a power user. Yeah, I don't know if that might be kind of a long name for a class, but that sounds, I don't know. So I kind of wanted to get y'all's opinion on what you think about just calling it something else, calling it power user level 1. And maybe people will, even if they're beginners, they can take it, and that way they become a power user. So apparently the whole class called beginner, like nobody's interested because I don't know if they think it's too easy or what. Power user fundamentals. Ooh, that's a good one, Potterful. I like that. All right, well, I'll let you guys, thanks for all of your input. I really appreciate it. So I'll let you guys kind of brainstorm in there. Yeah, so he said, I don't think people want to admit they're a beginner. Yeah. So I even, on my training site, I even created, so for the people who sign up for the power user class, even though they're a beginner, I created a new class that's just 4 hours. It's called like beginner fast class. And it's just a 4-hour prep you can take if you're a beginner and you are wanting to just take the power user class. That way you don't have to take the full beginner class. So yeah. All right. Thanks for all the feedback. I appreciate it, guys. So, yeah. All right. Well, I'll get started. As you can tell in Slack, I went ahead and posted links to all the different, Stuart says, I don't need no stinking beginner course. Yeah, that's a good idea. So I went ahead and posted a bunch of just links to other power hours that we've done that just are related to the power hour today. And it's, we did a power hour on filter web parts. We did one on web part settings. We did one on web part setting. We did one on the Excel web access web part and sending connections to it. So we've done several different related power hours. So I wanted to make sure you guys had all links to those, because I'm going to attempt to not do all of the exact same things in the web part connections power hour, which all those other ones had web part connections in them too, I believe. But all right, so let's go ahead, and I'll go ahead and just share my screen and talk a little bit about web part connections. And this is all just going to be a demo. Let me flip over to scene 2. There we go. Okay, this is just like my little example test bed. I called it stage 3 for the class that I was teaching last week, the workflows and forms class. And this is the whole travel request solution that we built throughout the week. But I have a lot of just things with web part connections that I wanted to show you in here. And hopefully it can give you ideas and get your, kind of get the wheels turning as to what can be done with these. Now, I'm not going to dive into what the entire solution entails, but what I wanted to do was go ahead and show you, so first show you an example of what the end result looks like for each one of these, and then show what it looks like to build it. So this is a site that's got my travel preferences and my travel requests, and it's just the currently logged in user. And there's a list called travelers. And there's also a list called the travel requests that they've made. So that's where those are coming from. So each traveler is in the traveler list only once. And then we want to see the person logged in to be able to see this cute little dashboard of all their own travel requests. So how do we do that? Now, when I build web part connections and web part pages, I usually like to build them using web part pages, because wiki pages drive me insane. People have differing opinions on that. But what I'm going to do is I'll even show you another trick to where, first of all, you can just go to your, and this has got the new look in it. I've got the new look kind of turned on and off in different lists in here, so it's kind of varying. But you can go to site pages, and you can just your out-of-the-box site pages library does have web part page as one of the content types that exists in there, so that it is possible to create a, let's see, let me make sure this is presented to everyone. Hold on a second. Okay, so you can do a web part page just in here, and that's what I did, but I'll show you another trick. You can go actually create whole other library, and I'll just call it dashboards. If I don't already have one called dashboards. Well, be sure to go to the advanced options. So you gotta love the way it wipes out your name there. Okay. You can create a whole web part, a library for web part pages, and just pick the template web part page. And that way, just everything you create in there will just use that template. So that way you can just keep them all in there. And as usual, you know, during Power Hour, feel free to chat and say hi in the little in the Slack channel, in the Power Hour, #Power Hour channel in there, and ask me questions as we go. So that's the whole point of this. So then when I create a new file in this library, it's automatically going to be a web part page. Now, with the caveat that everything's changing right now in SharePoint, and there's this whole new way of editing pages. And, you know, I'm not sure, I can't imagine that web part pages are going to go anywhere anytime soon, but this whole new thing is being introduced, and it's going to be a lot more pretty and modern, by the way. So I'll just create mine, which will be my travel requests, and I'll show you how to do the web parts in there. So I'll just pick this default little template. Josh is asking why I hate wiki pages. When I'm dealing with wiki pages, it's just harder to get around in there. It's harder to, like, randomly web parts will disappear. It's kind of hard. It's not as easy to, like, just move web parts around. It's harder to kind of get your cursor where you want it to go, and you end up with all this. It's just kind of, it just seems like a big time waster to me, because I always end up just having to struggle with it, with getting things where I want them. So what I'm going to do is go put travelers on here, and this is going to default to the currently logged in user. And go to my web part settings. So I'm just jumping right into web part settings. I haven't done any web part connections now, but what I'm doing is I actually created a view ahead of time in my list, and I just called it web part. And it's just the whole purpose of that view is just because it's kind of narrowed down, and it already has the columns that I want to see. I got rid of that little checkbox, that little tabular checkbox, you know what I'm referring to? So usually when I'm putting web parts on a page, and I'll show you what it looks like, I like to get rid of extraneous things to make sure that, you know, it's not going to waste a bunch of real estate on the page. So in my web part settings, I like to have the nice little edit link, so people can immediately go in there and edit it. And it's this tabular view thing that I unchecked. So I got rid of that, because that puts that little checkbox next to the item, which you don't necessarily need. So that's really what's done in here. And then you can just rename your web part and say it, you know, call it me or something like that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is put the web part that has all of my travel. So I'll just put it here as well. And it's going to be the travel request list for that person. And let me move that. And if I have problems moving things with a web part page, I actually even have more settings in my web parts settings in a web part page. Like, it lets me say what zone I want it to be in, and I can even hide web parts with a web part page, and I can't hide them with a wiki page. So Air Douglas, yes, the traveler is equal to me, except something to know about this solution is that we made the list so that it has the setting in it to say that each person is only going to see the items that are created by them, and only edit the items that were created by them. So inherently they're going to see their own items, but let me go ahead and throw that in just to make sure, just if that wasn't a factor, just to make sure we have a filter in here. Okay, so that's going to be traveler, and that's a people field in here. Traveler is equal to me. That way, even if it's someone else looking at this that does have access to all the travelers, they're not going to see them all. Good point. All right. Okay, so now we want to go ahead and can do a connection. So this is the whole point of web part connections, is that we have a provider web part. which is the web part that's going to be sending information, and a consumer web part, which is going to be receiving information. So let's go, I'll go edit this page, and I will go to connections. So when I go to do the little drop down at the top right of any web part, I have connections here, and I'm going to send my row of data to, and I'm going to send it to the travel request list. And I'm going to say I want the, first of all, I'm getting a filter value. We hardly ever use parameters anymore, especially when you can't as readily go into SharePoint Designer and add parameters like we used to be able to with DataView web parts. So usually filter values. And then which field am I matching up? This is important. Now it doesn't, when you're matching this up, it helps, you know, if you're using a lookup field in your list and they're related to each other, that helps, but you don't have to have a lookup in place. So it really just has to be whatever field you pick up here for the provider has to match exactly the value in whatever field you look up, you use for the consumer. So the top one is going to be traveler, and this is just a people field. And I'm going, they're never in alphabetical order, traveler. And then the one down here, this is actually the requester field, is a people field. That is actually the created by field, and I renamed it. So you can always just rename the created by and modified by fields if you ever need to in your list. So just so that it makes more sense for whatever that solution is. So did anybody, isn't that news to anybody? You think that's cool, or gonna try that out? All right, so I'm going to match that up with the requester. And now magically, I'm only seeing my own items because, see, it even shows the little filter. So I don't even have to show the requester field. That's kind of redundant to show that here in the consumer web part because it's going to be the same person for all of them. And when you're sending a web part connection, you could potentially have more than one traveler. So it puts this little select button next to it. But of course, there's only one traveler, so you don't really have to do anything with that. But that just shows me which traveler is sending information to the travel request list. So I could have a bunch of travelers send that information to the travel request list. So let me show you that. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the filter off of the travelers, and actually I don't have any other travelers. I might have to create another one. Okay, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to go to the next page that I wanted to demo for you guys. Now, in this solution, we have what's called something that you've probably seen me reference in other videos before. We're using a lookup list for our approvers in this solution. We have a list, and I'm just going to site contents. This is the new look of site contents. Going to a list called department approvers. Now, the workflow that we have going on in here has whatever, when someone fills out a new travel request, I'll just show you what that looks like real quick. It has a, and this is important because there's a relationship in place here. And why is it taking so long? It has a field called Contoso Department. That's a lookup field. And they're picking a department. Well, that is a lookup field to the department approvers list. So it's just looking up these departments. Okay, so when this thing is going through its approval process, it's automatically whatever department they picked as their department, you know, when they filled out the travel request. Yes, Air Douglas, you can also use the current user filter web part. If you need, like in that situation, that worked fine, but yeah, and I will show you that as well. And we'll use the department field when I do one of those as well. So the idea behind this is that we have the departments. Each department has a department VP, and they're going to be the ones in charge of approving items for their department. So we need to create a web page, a web part page that looks at who the logged in user is and shows me all the travel requests for that department. So the logged in user has nothing to do with the travel requests themselves. Their name is not going to be in any of those fields. It's going to be the department that's going to match. And I'll show you what that looks like when we go back to the home page, and I'm going to VP approval. I'm just going to skip the manager approval concept because that doesn't really have any web part connections. It's just the manager field in the travel request is equal to me. So that's not anything complicated. So this is my department to approve. So this is where it's taking the currently logged in user and looking at what department they're the VP of, and then sending that information down here. So this is marketing, and this is filtered by anything that's currently waiting for VP approval. So let's go fill one of those out real quick. So I'll go create a new travel request and put it for marketing, because it's only going to show in my filter if it's waiting for VP approval. So you get to see a little taste of this. I think I'll go to Atlanta. I think I already have one in here for Atlanta, whatever. Corey will be my manager. And what Atlanta dates do you think that, does anybody know? Why are a bunch of us going to Atlanta on those dates? Right. And I need to pick marketing here. Microsoft Ignite. Are any of you going to Ignite? Okay. Yes. Is anybody going to be there? Kind of say hi? Or I just put a blog post up yesterday that had all the information about the sessions I'll be presenting there. Oh, goodness gracious. Hope this doesn't take too long for the workflow to run. I'm just going to refresh that. And hockey game. No. Oh, none of you are going. Oh, yeah. Ignite's it's huge. It's so huge and it's so expensive. But all right. So this one's waiting for manager approval. I'm just going to check that box really quick. And that lets me approve it. And if you want to learn how to do this solution, sign up for my next Workflows and Forms class. Okay, I'm refreshing that page. So now the workflow is running and it's putting to VP approval, and then it will be on our dashboard. So let's go create that dashboard real quick, and we'll do this will have use the department of the VP. Oh, good. Okay, DCrack 86. DCrack 86. Nice. Okay. Let's see. Go create another dashboard. And this one's going to have more web part connections. And then I'll go to, and you guys let me know, is the workflow on the list or the document folder? The workflow is, well, we're not even really using any documents in this solution. The workflow is running on the travel request list and the task list. I have two workflows. Okay, so now what I want to do is have department approvers here, and also have, I always add them backwards, don't I? Because they end up showing backwards. All right. And I've got too many travel requests. Okay. This one, I need to filter it by department VP is equal to me. And pretty sure that's, and I always do no toolbar on these to get rid of all this stuff that I don't need. All right, and let me show you. So the filter on here is department VP is equal to me. And then this travel request list will have, I have a, basically it's a filter that's going to show all the items that are waiting for VP approval. So it says current status is, like VP approval status. So this is showing me all the items waiting for VP approval, and they're grouped by manager. So there's the one that I just created for Atlanta, and Corey's the manager. And it's even showing me a nice little sum per manager, and those are just view settings. And then here comes the web part connection. So right now it's showing everything that's waiting for VP approval, but that's any VPs. So I'm creating the web part connection so it'll only show the items that are related to the currently, like this VP, the one that it's already filtered by. So I'm going to send, so if I'm starting up here, I'm going to send the row of data, but if I start down the other web part, I could go get filter value. So I can actually start from either one if I'd like. Okay, and a little pop-up. Where are you? There we go. Get filter value. Take your time, SharePoint, any day now. Okay, so provider is not going to be department VP. It's going to be this department field. And the department field is, so I need to show all the items in the travel request list that have that same department name. So it's called Contoso department in the other one. And I didn't name them all department because I wanted to be people to be able to differentiate and understand which one was which. So I kind of did that on purpose. Plus there's already an out of the box site column called department. So I was avoiding the confusion there. Now, whoever's looking at this page is going to see their department and they're going to see it filtered by all the things that are waiting VP approval from their department. All right, cool. Now, one that I see a lot, and I might have already shown this when I did the current user filter web part, but I'll just do one with the current user filter web part. And what I see a lot is people needing to be able to see my department request. So it's a group of people that they need to process their requests, and they don't need to see all the requests, but they just need to see the ones that are related to them and their department. Now, it really helps if your Active Directory is correct for this, because that's going to be kind of useless if it's not, but I'll call it my department. And so what we're going to do is let me know, guys, if you see this as a requirement a lot or what you think about this, but it's going to basically look at the currently logged in users departments and then show information, filtered by that department. So I will do the travel request list and do the current user filter. All right, and again, the current user filter any day now gets its information from, this is from Active Directory. And I even wrote a blog post called Testing the Current User Filter Web Part. I sent Corey the information about this broadcast. Maybe he said to send it to him in Skype. Maybe he meant the other Skype. I sent it to him in Skype for Business. Sorry, a second. I feel like he said he was going to be a little late, but I don't know how late he meant. So I'm just going to double check and send it to him. All right. In the meantime, Airduck says I've had to use the current user filter to filter lists on user profile attributes. Exactly. Okay. Current user filter. Now, by default, it just shows the login of the current user. Of course, when you're filtering something by the current user, you can always just use me in your filters, right? You don't have to, that's kind of redundant. But if you want to use something else about that user and use that to filter stuff, department's the most common one I see. I always see 2 departments listed in here. In any environment I'm in, I just pick the first one. I'm not sure why there are 2. You could do something weird like go look and, have the first name of the person that's logged in match something in a list or whatever. All these different things are from Active Directory available to you. That manager is a useful one. And let's go to department. And in a minute, we'll go look at manager and see what's in there. I'm not sure if this account that I'm logged in has a manager though. So, all right, so I've got departments. And then, so now that I've put department in there, this web part's not doing anything yet, and it's not going to show on the page to anyone, but it is now storing the name of the department of the currently logged in user. So in this case, my department is IT, and I just know that. So I'm going to send the filter value to the travel request list, which is the only other list on the page. And I've got to wait for the little pop-up. Anne's laughing at me because I said real Skype, you know, the original Skype. Okay, there it goes. Get filter value. Any other type of web part connections you guys want to see besides list to list, or any other particular ones that you kind of expected to see today? So now I've got Contoso department. Now I expected this to not work. Okay, have you guys ever seen this not work? Now in the past, this exact thing that I just did has not worked because the Contoso department field is a drop-down. It's a lookup field to another list. And you know how lookup fields, they kind of store the information a little weird. It's kind of, it's stored with the ID and all this extra stuff. Well, the name of the person's department is just IT. It's just text. So in the past, when I've tried to send that information from the current user filter to this lookup field, it didn't work because it didn't match, because one was just the text, just IT, and one was this big complicated lookup field. Looks like Microsoft fixed something. And now all of a sudden, as of last week when I tried this, it works. So I'm not sure when they fixed it, but that's really nice to know. If you guys are on-prem and you've seen this not work, there is a workaround though. So let me show you the workaround for this, and you will come across this with lookup fields most likely. So what I did as a workaround, which I don't really need to do, of course, in Office 365 now they fixed it, but you can go to the travel request list, and you have Contoso department here. And what you can do is check an additional box next to just the name of the department. It's already showing the name of the department here. But if you check the additional box here, it'll bring across another field with the name of the department in it to the travel request list. And that one is stored as text. So when you create your web part connection, you can actually send the current user filter department name to this, and it would be called like Contoso department : DPEPT would be what the name of the column would be when I did that. Does that make sense to you guys? What I just said about bringing across that extra column? Do I need to show you? Let's see. We're halfway done. So, okay. So yeah, Jeff, I did do an entire power hour about Excel services, but that one's really fun. So I'll go ahead and do that one anyway. Oh, Air Douglas says there are two department fields in the user profile service. One is mapped to a term set and the other is not. Good to know. I never really dug into why there are two there. Okay, so you guys want to see. Okay, so I checked the box. So this is my lookup field in the travel request list, and it's a lookup to get the name of the department from the other list. So I added an additional field. So what happens when I check the box is now I've got, this is the lookup field, Contoso department, and this is just the name of the department. See, it's just text. It's not that weird funky thing with the hyperlink and everything. Okay, so then when I go to my dashboard and I go to the one that I'm trying to create called My Department, and edit the page, what I can do is, so I'll just go edit my web part connection. It just got slow all of a sudden, I'm not sure why. IMOGHIS, I can't pronounce that. IMO. I'd like to know the difference between new list, edit, okay, new edit and display. Okay. Okay, so instead of Contoso department, I could do my connection from the current users department to this one that I just added. And so even if you're on-prem and you're not in an environment where Microsoft has just fixed that, it will still work and it will still show you the right department. Now, does that make sense? All right. Okay, so the new edit and display form, I'll show you that because I did an example of actually customizing one of those in here. So the new form is what you get when you create a new item in a list. And I have mine as a pop-up, but It's basically when I go to whatever the list is, if I go new form.aspx, so it's like travel request list / new form.aspx, this is what you're filling out when you're filling out a new form. Okay, and that's its own page. And then the edit form is when you're editing an existing item, and that one's edit form.aspx, and then it's got a query string ID equals, and it's going to that determines which item you're looking at. So if I just kind of go directly to one of those, let's see, that ID is 10 right there. So I'll go edit form.aspx $ID equals 10. And of course, everything in SharePoint has an ID. That's the inherent unique ID. And then watch this, if I change it to 9, then I'm looking at a different item. I'm editing a different item. So that's how the edit form works, and that's how the display form works. It's just disp form, and your display form is just you're looking at an existing item. Now, I actually customized the display form on these. So I'll show you what I did here. Going to edit the page, and I added a web part. I added just a content editor web part to this page, and I just typed in it. I just typed travel request form, and that makes it nice and pretty. And then I added my 2 different copies of the task list with 2 different filters on. The completed tasks are just filtered to show tasks where status is equal to completed, and pending tasks are ones that are not completed. So I've actually got web part connections in place here, where whatever travel request I'm looking at on the display form, it's actually sending a web part connection. So the task list has a lookup field in it to the travel request list. So whenever I create new tasks in my workflow, with my workflow, I set that value. So that's how I'm able to create these web parts of the tasks that are related to any given travel request. So the ID of the travel request is being sent to the lookup field in the task list called travel request. So I'm sending that, and the connection is exactly the same on both of these. I just when it's a pending task, and I'll go show you one of them that's pending real quick, like Atlanta. Okay. It's not me, it's you, Office 365. All right. So one that's pending, I give them an edit button and a checkbox to check it off, and I just don't give them any way of clicking on it or editing it when it's completed. And that's just my easy way of doing that. And that's just that's just the columns that I selected to show in that view. All right, so that was a quick overview of those 3 forms. And then Jeff says Excel services. And then, yeah, okay. So let's do Excel services. Now, the trick to that is going to be, where's my fake content that I can use? You know what? I'm just going to create a spreadsheet. That's what I'm going to do. All right, I'll go to, so I've got fake content, around on different computers and different pretty spreadsheets, but I'll go ahead and create, ooh, that looks weird. Create a new spreadsheet and show you just some basics in here if it ever comes up. There it goes. And some of the stuff I'll show you in here, I'm not sure if it's even compatible with this online version. So let's do department. And I'll do total. What are some other columns? Let's see, this is like budgeting or something like that. And then prediction. I'm just making this up. Okay. So we'll have like IT, marketing. And then I'm going to put a few numbers in here and make it super simple, just so I can show you the idea about with the connections and kind of make it so that it's really understandable. Now, what I need to do is when I'm dealing with the Excel Web Access web part, I can do parameters in there. I can pass parameters to the Excel Web Access web part and make it do kind of fancy things in there. You know what I want to do? I want to open this and edit it in Excel. I'm just not as comfortable at doing the things that I do in Excel in the online version. I never do that. Okay, so here's Excel, and I'll edit the workbook. So in the other Power Hour, what I did was I created a dynamic Excel web part where I, whichever item you picked in a library full of Excel spreadsheets, whichever one you clicked on, it showed that one dynamically in the Excel Web Access web part on the same page. What I'm going to do here is make this like bold and put an underline and put a filter on that so you can tell that it's a, here I'll put some numbers, format cells, make those currency, no decimal places. Okay. And what I'm going to do is make department a parameter. So what I have to do is I have to name this. I have to name this field. And I'm going to call it department. And this is, okay. All right, now I think I'm doing that right. Now I need to save it. Okay, so this is book.xlsx, and it is in a library in SharePoint, and it is super simple. But let's show what we can do with the connections in a web part. Yeah. Okay, let's go to my dashboards and create a new dashboard. And I'll call it cell test. People still put stuff in spreadsheets, don't they? Okay, I'm going to put, I'll put the spreadsheet down here in my Excel Web Access web part. And I think we actually did, we might have even done 2 or 3 Power Hours where we do Excel Web Access web part because there's just so much you can do with it. There's this awesome REST API. There's just, I'm not a developer, but it's fun stuff and I can understand it. So it's figure outable. I just made up a word. Okay, so I'm navigating to my spreadsheet that I want to show in my Excel Web Access web part. And if I wanted to, I can make it show just one particular named item. I'm just going to click apply just so you can see it. All right, there's my web part. Now I can also do, make it so, like the filtering here that's enabled in with these, I could take that away if I wanted to. So I could take away different things that people are able to do in here with sorting and filtering and even typing. Now, let's see, I'm going to click OK. And let's do another web part where I'm just going to do something super simple like this. There's a web part called the text filter web part. And this is a good one for just testing web part connections. And it lets me just be able to type something in there. And that way it can really see kind of what's going on and really narrow it down when I'm kind of troubleshooting or trying to figure out how to do a web part connection. So I'm just going to basically type something in there and hit enter, and that will send my filter information. So I'm going to send my filter value to get named item. And I did do my named item. I created that named item called department. Now, one thing that I didn't do is when you're in Excel Web Access and you're publishing it to SharePoint, there's a little extra screen that you need to be aware of. So when I go to Save As and I'm putting it in here in my shared documents, the browser view options. So this is important when you're doing spreadsheets and you're trying to, especially when you're trying to control what shows in SharePoint. You can even take away, certain sheets and certain items and things like that when you're deciding what you want to be able to be shared in the Excel Web Access web part. So here's the step that I didn't do. I didn't add my parameter. So here's my parameter. I created a named cell called department, but then when I publish it to SharePoint, I have to actually add that as a parameter. It won't let you add it if it's more than one cell. It has to be just a single cell. Yes, I want to replace it. So that was me flipping back to Excel and doing that. Okay, so let me go back to here and let me refresh this page that I'm going to have to edit a little bit. Excel test. Okay, now my web part's going. See, now it's got a parameter. Cool, right? So let me type IT in here and hit enter. See if it filters it. Maybe not. Oh, apply. Oh, see, it put IT in here. It didn't filter the information. Oh, that sucks. Huh. Something I didn't do with the way it's filtering. It's just putting the value right there. Okay, I'll have to figure that out. But I want to show you how to pass the parameter to it from another web part. So let's go here, go to my connection, and remove it because I need to recreate it. And I could also go from down here and create the connection. So there are several different things I can do when I start from the Excel Web Access web part. I can get the workbook URL, and this is what I did in that whole other Power Hour, was I showed how to do this and how to make that work. Get workbook URL from, and it's getting it from another web part. Get named item from, get filter value from, and I want to try getting a filter value. All right. So this is, you have a lot more options when you start from the top corner of the Excel Web Access web part to see what you can get from other web parts, as opposed to when you start from the web parts that's sending to it. Let's try get filter values. See if that works. Filter is my text filter. Filtered parameter is departments. Again, I'm not sure if I set that up correctly. So let's see. Now I'm going to stop editing. So theoretically, I would type, now I wasn't going to do an Excel Web Access demo in today's Power Hour, just for the record, because I had already done a couple of other Power Hours with that. So this is very on the fly. Theoretically, I should be able to type IT and hit enter, and no, it's not doing it. It's just putting the word IT right here. So that is now think about ways that you could have it just doing calculations. So think about if you have, like, you know, something like a mortgage calculator or a resource calculator, anything like that that you have as a spreadsheet. You could put that as an Excel Web Access web part with parameters on your page, and you wouldn't even have to do a web part connection. The parameters pane shows up in here in the web part, and it lets you, you know, just let them quickly fill in information, and it does a calculation for them without necessarily saving that spreadsheet with the new data in it. All right, let's see. Did anybody else have one that was not, that I haven't shown yet? So let's go see. Now, the content search web part actually lets you do a query string filter. Did you know that? So the content search web part, the new awesome one in SharePoint 2013 and up, it doesn't actually let you do web part connections, but it lets you get query string information. So potentially you could get, you know, do things like that to be able to get information from a filter that you're sending through the URL, and not necessarily something that's just being sent from another web part. So let's see. Trying to think. Oh, another one. I don't have I don't have SSRS set up on this one, but another one, and I'm pretty sure we did this in another Power Hour, that's really, really useful. Is anybody using SSRS? SQL Server Reporting Services. That one lets you do connections. There's a report viewer web part that you have when you have SSRS integrated with SharePoint. And it lets you do the same kind of thing where you have a report that you've created a parameter on. Say I want, you know, I have a report that's got everybody's budget numbers, but I have a parameter named departments, and I want just people to see their own department's budget numbers in this SSRS report. Well, you can actually pass a parameter from the current user filter web part to the SSRS web part, to the report viewer web part, and show that information. I don't think any of you are using SSRS. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to think what other, I had another one in here that was fairly complicated. Let's go look at my, any other ideas of things that you want me to demo? I could just work on that Excel one and try and fix it, but okay, so I've got one called, got another one called dashboard. So when I go look at a traveler, I create, and I did a blog post on how to do this the other day on how to create a custom little button that will take you, that you can create that via workflow that will take you to a special page, and this one's sending a parameter to it. So that little special button was sending a parameter of whatever the ID is of the item to this special little web part page. So this one is using a query string. And I did, again, a whole other power hour on query string. Oh, hey, Corey, are you in here now? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just chilling.
Cool. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been just demoing web part connections, and did you see what I did with this one that I couldn't get it to work?
Yeah, that was pretty. Yeah.
I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm sure whatever I'm doing wrong is in Excel though. So I'm not sure. I know I've done it in the past, but it's been a long time, and I wasn't really planning on demoing that. But all right. So this one is using a query string filter, and it's usually a kind of a couple of other, a little bit complexity. So I'll just go in here since we've only got 9 minutes left, and I'll show you kind of several different web part connections that we're doing in here. So the idea behind this is that someone who's in charge of managing, they're like in the travel department, and they are in charge of sort of managing all the travelers and helping them and looking at their preferences and things like that. They could go click on this dashboard button for any traveler and be able to go to this page that has everything. They can go see what's the holdup on something that needs to be approved, etc. So I've got the query string URL filter. Now what I did was I created this query string and I called it traveler. So that means I just have to use that word when I'm sending a filter to this page. So it's basically traveler equals, and then this number 1 right here, that is the value that this query string filter is going to hold. And that's just because the URL I sent you to has that number. So each different traveler's dashboard button is going to have their unique ID that it's going to take you to this same page and just pass that different information to it. I don't have a default value. I just called it traveler. That's all I did. But then I'm sending this query string information to a couple of other web parts. Send filter value to, and I'm sending it to traveler details. I've got several different things going on in here. So it's taking the query string and it's just sending it to traveler details, just so that the traveler details just shows that one item, that one person. Okay, and that's all there is to it. It's just the ID of that traveler. Then the traveler details web part is sending a row of data to the travel request list. So the query string isn't sending the information to the travel request list. Whichever traveler you happen to be looking up, it's sending that traveler's name as a connection to show all the travel items for that person when they were the requester. Okay, and then we want to see all the associated tasks. So the query string is sending information to the tasks. Now, why is the query string associated with the tasks? Well, the query string has a lookup to who the traveler is. And see, remember what I did a minute ago with the way that I checked that additional box with the lookup? Okay, so the task list has a column that's a lookup to the traveler. So every task knows which traveler it's associated with. So what I did, just like the one where I checked the additional box for the department a minute ago, I went into the task list and checked an additional box to get the ID of who the traveler is. And that way, when I'm sending the query string parameter that, you know, traveler equals 1 or 2 or whatever to the task list, it's going to be able to match that number, because the value in one web part, the provider web part, has to match exactly the value in a consumer web part. So that's how I did it. So there are multiple different web part connections going on here, but the travel department people can go here and be able to see all that person's travel requests and all the tasks associated with them, so they can kind of narrow, if they need help and figure out what's stuck or who they're waiting for, etc. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, I'm not sure why, because see, when that one gets filtered, it sends it in here from the filter value, but there's something additional I'd probably need to do in this name or in the name manager that would make it so that when you send a value to it, it filters this other, this whole column. So, and that's going to be more of an Excel functionality than a SharePoint functionality. All right. Any other Visio web access web parts lets you do web part connections too, but we did a whole other power hour on that one too. I think we pretty much wrapped up all power hours having to do with web parts. Any other last questions in our next 4 minutes? And now we're going to have this whole new type of web part, right? Are y'all excited? Did y'all see what Microsoft announced the other day, that the new type of sites and the new web parts are coming out soon? I think I showed you guys that in one of the power hours. I'll just give you a little glimpse of it real quick while maybe you're typing questions. If you go right now, if you go to your Office 365 profile and you click About Me, you're going to be able to go see this blog, this blog thing right here. And when you do a new blog post, it's got the new look and it's got the new web parts. So test blog, oops. And it's got, I can start writing, but see this little plus? These are web parts. So this is going to be kind of what the new way is for putting web parts on a page, where you're putting them down the page using these little plus buttons. So you guys look forward to that. If you're in Office 365, then when you go ahead and go to the SharePoint page like this, and supposedly this week it's coming out. But when you click the little, I don't have it turned on in my tenant. I think I took it away from people so they wouldn't click on it. But it's a little new site button. You know what I'm talking about? So it's a little new site button that shows right here. So when you click new site, that should give you the new type of site that's like a group combined with a team site. That's the new thing. And that's what Adam and I are doing our presentation on at Ignite. Oh, Carlos says, looks like you can filter if you add a slicer, then you can connect the slicer to the parameter you're passing in. Awesome, Carlos. You are a genius. I appreciate that. Yes, Excel 2010 does the Excel Web Access web part, and Excel 2010 does all that same stuff that I just showed you. I don't think any of that's new in 2013. Treva, look at the general tab right here in the Slack channel, and I posted all those right before Power Hour started. I posted the links to all those old Power Hours, the one on web part settings, the one on the dynamic Excel web access web part, the one on the filter web parts, and I'll go find the one on the Visio stuff too. But yeah.
And I posted a link to your channel as well.
Oh yeah, thanks. Cool. Well, thanks everybody for coming. That just about wraps it up. And next week, let me flip over to my other. There we go. Thanks everybody for coming. Let's see. Emoji says, what site do you go for MS updates to SharePoint? I would go to the fast track. So it's like fasttrack.microsoft.com. That must be it. No.
Imogus, are you talking about on-prem or Office 365? Because for on-prem, I would go to Todd Clint's site.
Oh yeah, all the actual patching and stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. God, really didn't mean to do that. I'm trying to click on, it's fasttrack.microsoft.com or maybe even fasttrack.office.com. So Corey, last week in our class, when somebody was asking where you can get the updates of all the new stuff that's coming out, I went and looked it up later. Like when you go to the admin center for Office 365, it takes you to, and I'll put this in the general tab, takes you to this, fasttrack.microsoft.com/office. And that is where it's got the roadmap tab in there. So the roadmap is where you can look to see like all these new features as they're being rolled out, etc. Cool. Okay. It's got a whole big list there, so I'll paste that in there too. All right. Cool. Next week I've got let's see, what's the topic? wonderlaura.com. I'm not sure off the top of my head what the topic is. I need to start populating more topics. So we're having a power hour next week, but then the week after that is my power user class. Y'all spread the word. My power user class is coming up. So Corey and I will be in there teaching that. And then the week after that is Ignite. So there are going to be 2 weeks in a row where we're not going to have a power hour.
You're not going to do a power hour from Ignite?
That's going to be so tricky. I'm not sure.
And I won't be there to help you, so
yeah, you're going to be on vacation. Next week we're doing Microsoft Planner. So that's sort of like, that's the tasks thing, like tasks.office.com. So that's all in Office 365. Thanks, everybody. I will see you next time. Thanks for coming. Over and out.